Hi everyone, the following video contains valuable information for you about how to apply to medicine here at the University of New South Wales.
Right, thank you very much, Jonathan, and I'd like to welcome everyone to UNSW Australia. I hope this evening will be very informative to you. If we don't see you next year, that's not the parents, the kids next year in the medicine program. Hopefully we'll see you at UNSW doing another program because it's a great university. Although I have to declare my bias, I was an undergraduate and a postgraduate student here. As Jonathan said, I'm Program Authority, which is a director or head of curriculum and head of assessment for our medicine program. So I'm going to give you a 15-minute talk, just a sketch on the outline of our program and some of the things that you can be looking forward to if you finish our program and then practice as a medical practitioner. So what's different about our medicine program? This slide summarises some of the key aspects. A lot of this information is available on our website, so I please would suggest that you can go to the website to get more information and with some of the handbooks that you've been given. As this audience would know, it's a 6-year undergraduate program. We changed our curriculum about 12 or 13 years ago so that you actually now learn the biomedical sciences and social sciences with medical practice, and I'll expand on that in a few slides. It's a fully integrated program. The older medical programs, you used to learn anatomy, physiology, and then you would go on to do medical practice. We teach all these disciplines together. So it's horizontally integrated, so across the year you're learning many disciplines within that horizontal year. But we also have vertical themes that go across the whole 6 years. Themes such as ethics, the quality use of medical practice, etc. One of the novel things we have is a research project which is in the 4th year of the medicine program called our Independent Learning Project. And we're one of the only medical programs that has something like this. And again, I'll expand on this a little bit later. We purposely introduced collaborative learning as a learning strategy for our students. We recognise that doctors and health professionals in this day and age really work in teams. Even a primary physician, a GP working in a practice, does work within a team. They have their nurse practitioners, they have dietitians, they have physiotherapists they work with. So the skills that you require to work as a health professional or a doctor in this day and age really need to be learnt in medical school. How do you actually work within a group in a very effective way? How do you work in that group to a same common goal? There are problems with working in groups. There's issues around power sharing, etc., and we want our students to learn that right from the beginning. So we have a strong emphasis on collaborative learning. And there are opportunities for you to broaden your education. All of our students are required to do at least 2 general education courses in other faculties, and a small group of our students actually elect to do an arts medicine program, but that does extend the program another year up to 7 years. So one of the things you might be thinking about is, should I be looking at an undergraduate medicine program or a graduate medicine program? Well, just a couple of points on that before I go on. In the undergraduate programs, we look at teaching academic skills while you're actually learning the sciences, while you're learning the biomedical and social sciences and medical practice. And we think that this, certainly from our point of view, is a very good way to go because our students learn these academic skills within the context of their profession. In contrast, graduate programs look at students developing a lot of their academic skills in an undergraduate course that may not necessarily directly relate to the medicine program that they'll enter into when they graduate. Just to expand again on our learning strategies, the traditional medicine programs were, like I'm showing schematically there on the left, where you were taught all the biomedical sciences over the first 2.5, 3 years. You learnt all your anatomy, your physiology, your pathology, etc. And it wasn't really until the 4th year that you actually then met a patient and started to apply those sciences that you'd learnt in that first 3 years. That was the style of medicine program that I was taught here at UNSW. In contrast, we purposely combined medical practice with the biomedical and social sciences. This is a strategy where we know that students will learn better because they actually appreciate why they're learning. So for example, they might be doing something like the anatomy of the respiratory system, the anatomy of the lungs. At the same time, they might be doing microbiology and learning what pathogens, bacteria, viruses affect the lungs. But while they're actually doing that, based here at campus, from year one, they'll be within the hospitals. In year one, it's only half a day a week, half a day every 2 weeks, depending on the actual course you're in. And interacting with the patients who are having difficulty with breathing, maybe patients that have got chest infections, really allows the students to appreciate the campus-based learning, the anatomy of the lung, because they've met people who actually are having problems using their lungs. So our students learn better when we do it this way, plus they also enjoy learning and they see the meaning of their learning, which is very important as well. There's a quote here by Sir William Osler. He was a very famous Canadian physician who was over 100 years ago being quoted as saying, "He who studies medicine without books sails an uncharted sea, but he who studies medicines without patients does not go to sea at all." And I think that quote, albeit over 100 years old, really sums up our philosophy, why we're exposing our students to patients in those early stages of the medicine program. Just a couple of slides on the actual structure of the program. The 6 years is broken up into 3 phases. Phase 1 is years 1 and 2, Phase 2 is years 3 and 4, and Phase 3 is years 5 and 6. And the 3 phases reflect different teaching and learning styles that we actually have within the program. Phase 1, there's a strong focus on the biomedical and social sciences. We teach these in what are called health scenarios. So that might be around a disease process like tuberculosis. Our students may be introduced to this scenario. It might be tuberculosis in the Southeast Asian region. And they'll be learning within that context. They'll be learning the microbiology of tuberculosis, the anatomy of the lung when tuberculosis affects it, etc. So once again, these health scenarios are a very good way for our students to learn because they can actually see their learning in the context of all the information that's being provided to them. In the Phase 1, our students are basically based here at UNSW campus, and they spend half a day a week in one of our clinical skills units and also half a day every second week at our hospitals or other health centres. When it comes to Phase 2 has 2 parts. It has the clinical courses. The clinical courses are based upon weekly themes. Our students are then based 3 days a week within the hospitals and 2 days a week on campus. These weekly themes might be things like breathlessness, chest pain, gastrointestinal bleeding. And again, students are actually able to learn within the context of the actual disease processes they're being exposed to. The second part to Phase 2 is this independent learning project that I alluded to earlier. All of our students undertake this. It's not an optional research year, it's a compulsory research year. It goes for all of the 4th year. Students are required to do a project in a lot of depth. This project may be basic science, in other words, in a laboratory. It might be within a hospital setting or a clinical practice. It might be in epidemiology or public health. Students work on this project during this time with a supervisor and a co-supervisor, and we see this as a very important part of the learning of medical practice because our students learn not only how to research an area in great depth, but they also learn the skills to critically evaluate things, to work out statistics, how to work through statistics and working out whether data is significant or not. But they also learn other skills such as presentation skills and the ability to actually summarise their data and put it forward in a meaningful way. A lot of our students, following their independent learning project, will present their results at national and some of them even at international meetings. And a lot will go on to publish their research in international journals. So it's a very rewarding year for our students. When it comes to Phase 3, the final 2 years of the program, it's back to the traditional, what we call clinical clerkships. And that's when you're embedded within the hospital or health facility or a primary care practice, a GP practice. And the students, if you like, function as apprentice doctors during this time. So they might be attached to the cardiology team in one of the big teaching hospitals we have here in Sydney, or one of our smaller hospitals in the rural areas. When they're attached to this team will visit the emergency department where they'll have admissions, they'll have outpatients where they'll see patients, they'll be doing ward rounds, etc. And the students will be part of that team, meeting patients, helping the team clerk patients, chasing results, etc., etc. So they're really learning on the job, and that recognises the professional aspects of our medicine program, which is why we have an MD for the last 3 years of the program. I alluded to some of our teaching sites. We have 5 main clinical schools: the Prince of Wales Hospital up the road, St Vincent's Hospital, Southwest, which is Liverpool and Bankstown at Fairfield, St George Hospital and Sutherland Hospital as well. We also have rural campuses at Albury, Port Macquarie, Wagga Wagga and Coffs Harbour. And all of our students will spend a small amount of time, certainly in a rural experience, and some students will have the opportunity to spend at least a year, if not 2 years, within one of those rural campuses. Our students also spend time, obviously, attached to general practice and other community health centres as well. David, who's following me, will talk a lot more about the selection process, so I won't go into this in a lot of detail. But we aim to actually select out very intelligent students not only who are going to be good medical students, but students who are going to be good doctors for the future. As a consequence, we look for personal attributes such as empathy, ability to be self-directed, ability to be critically appraising of a subject, and to learn from your mistakes as well. The selection is taken from a combination of the ACER interview and a UMAT, and you'll hear more about that in a second. We have high retention rates. We've got the highest retention rate of any program within our university, and our completion rates are also excellent. But it is 6 years of hard work, and we don't shy away from that. We challenge our students, we ask them to work hard. We are under no false pretense that working as a doctor is not an easy job. It requires dedication, commitment and hard work. So if we weren't actually encouraging our students to do that, we wouldn't be doing a good job. Having said that, the feedback we get from our students is exceedingly positive, which is great. We do have a small graduate entry program, and I want to make a note here that the graduate entry program is only from our Bachelor of Medical Sciences, okay? So you can't go to another university, do a Bachelor of Medical Science and apply for our graduate entry program. Again, the selection is based on UMAT and interview, but also their performance in the Bachelor of Medical Science. They'll then, after their 3 years of medical science, do their honours year and enter the 4th year of our medicine program. So altogether, that actually takes 7 years. And you can see it's a small group of students who come in that way. Now, just for the last couple of minutes, thinking for the future for you guys. If you come into medicine, if we see you here next year or we see you at one of our sister universities in a medicine program, you'll be starting upon a continuum. We see medicine programs as the start of your profession. And we want you to, as an undergraduate student, to actually adopt the medical profession like we would expect junior doctors to, because you'll be within that profession for many years to come. You'll be learning on the job. A lot of the skills we give you in the first 6 years as an undergraduate will be skills that you'll be applying over the next 30 to 40 years. As a consequence, some of our students find some of the skills that we give them in our undergraduate program a bit challenging, but they certainly realise that those challenging skills that we've asked them to improve upon and become experts in are things that will help them very much for the future. I'm not sure what type of doctor you want to be. I'm not sure whether I've worked with any doctors that are shown on this slide here, but medicine is a very rich career. Sometimes I think when you see programs that are listed here on this slide, you get a little bit of a biased view that we're all running around in our scrubs, having coffee with good-looking girls. It's not like that. Medicine is a very broad career. If you want to continue to function as a clinical practitioner, there's a lot of opportunities as a practitioner. In other words, someone who's seeing patients on a regular basis. As I'm sure the audience knows, our general practitioners are a real pivotal part of our health system in this day and age, as they have always been. And there's a broad group of specialties you can consider, right from being a physician, a paediatrician, an obstetrician, a radiologist, and etc. But don't only just think about seeing patients. Medicine's more than that. In this day and age, with the complexity of medicine, we need our doctors working in other areas. We need them working in public health. So a subgroup of our graduates go and work for the WHO. They go and work in developing countries, helping with infectious diseases, helping their health systems develop. Medical research is exceedingly important. The drugs we use these days to help cure our diseases are inventions that may have been on the actual laboratory bench only 10 or so years before. Health management, health policy is very important. We've got a great squeeze on the health dollar these days, so having our doctors working with our policymakers is also an exceedingly important thing. And some doctors go into medical education, people like myself, and I find personally, and my colleagues who are in medical education, find this incredibly rewarding, especially working with junior medical students like you guys might be next year. But don't forget the alternative programs. Okay, there's lots of health professions that are very interesting. You'll be working in hospitals, you'll be working in health settings that challenge you. These are through nursing, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, psychology, etc. So if perchance you shy away from medicine for whatever reason, but you're still interested in dealing with patients, you're still interested in health, seriously think about these other areas, these other professions, because they can be incredibly rewarding as well. I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'd like to wish you all the best for 2015, especially the parents and children who are having students who are doing the HSC this year. I had a daughter do the HSC last year and I've only just recovered. So I know it's a challenging year. Just finally, just to leave you with some quotes from a yearbook from our Year 6 students from a number of years ago. And you can see here, there's a variety of opinions as to how they look back over the previous 6 years. But as you can see here, the feedback that they've given us is invariably very positive. So thank you again, and I hope you have a good night.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. It's great to see such a good roll-up of potential applicants to UNSW Medicine. On behalf of the Medicine Education and Student Office, I'd like to welcome you all. I've been doing a lot of talking in the last few days. I've been on a recruitment drive overseas, so I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, but never mind. My job tonight is to assist you guys with your application process and to dispel some of the myths that arise every year around this time. I really want to get rid of all those myths and help you to do a good application, a stress-free application. If I do my job well tonight, everybody here that puts in an application is going to have a stress-free application. But first off, I want to talk about the bad news. We'll get the bad news out of the way. There are far more people wanting to do medicine than there are places available. So there's going to be a whole lot of people that continually apply to medicine that are never going to get into a medicine program. Okay, that's all the bad news I've got. The good news is there are lots of options for you to get into a medicine program. All around Australia, there are undergraduate medicine programs on offer. In New South Wales, there are 3 undergraduate medicine programs. UNSW, we offer a 6-year program. University of Western Sydney offer a 5-year program, and the University of Newcastle offer a 5-year program also. There are graduate entry programs where you complete an undergraduate degree and then start applying for graduate entry. Uni of Sydney, Wollongong and Notre Dame, the Catholic University in New South Wales, all offer 4-year graduate entry programs. As Tony mentioned, we have a graduate entry stream via medical sciences at UNSW as another option of getting you into the program. A lot of people ask, well, what's the difference between GAMSAT and UMAT? Now, GAMSAT is the test that people must undertake when you're applying for graduate entry medicine programs. We're not interested in that. We're interested in UMAT, and Veronica will hopefully be talking to you later on about the UMAT. So I won't go into too much detail about it. It is in 3 sections: logical reasoning and problem solving, understanding people, and non-verbal reasoning. I've also got a few photos that I've taken that we're incredibly proud of our faculty that we've just moved back into, that's just been renovated. So these are a couple of my photos that I've taken over the time. How many places are available for UNSW Medicine? We have straightforward places, 136 places. That's Commonwealth supported places. We have 45 bonded medical places. Now they're where the government, where you offer or you sign a contract to be bonded to an area of workplace shortage. Now that's something that we must fill. It's a government obligation. We have 8 medical rural bonded scholarships, very, very healthy scholarships, $25,000 per year. But of course, in return, the government will want something in return. We have 80 international places, which is quite irrelevant to tonight. I'm guessing that most people here tonight will be straightforward local applicants. The first myth I'm coming to is that applying for a bonded place doesn't increase your chance of entry. In fact, it does. What we do after we combine the 3 selection criteria, which I'll talk about more in a minute, once we combine those 3 criteria, we rank everybody from the top person down. We give the first 136 people unbonded places, regardless of what you've selected. We understand that really people don't want a bonded place. But in your application, in your faculty application, we give you the opportunity to select what you want to be considered for. So if you want to be only considered for an unbonded place, you will tick that. If you want to be considered for a bonded place, you will tick that. If you tick a bonded place, once we get below that 130 people that we've ranked after the 3 selection criteria have been combined, we then only look at the people who have selected bonded. Okay, so if you're 1 or 2 below that line and you have said no to a bonded, well, it's bye-bye. We don't consider you anymore. If you've selected bonded, that's when we start selecting you as bonded. Myth 2, UNSW could take more students. Well, that's just not true. Medicine is probably the only, or it's one of the only university tertiary degrees that have a quota of students. The federal government sets the quota, and local students, it's currently at 189. Of those 189 students, UNSW sets a rural quota of 47. So we have a rural entry scheme. If you think you might be a rural entry person, have a look at our website to determine that. The international quota is quite irrelevant to local applications. What subject should I study? Now, every university, every medical school has a different selection criteria. At UNSW, there are no prerequisite subjects. There is assumed knowledge in at least standard English, and we do recommend chemistry. Now, if you haven't done chemistry, it's not going to stop you getting into our program. What is going to stop you getting into our program are the 3 selection criteria, which I'll talk about in a minute. There are chemistry bridging courses that can be done throughout the summer holidays if you feel like you need to scrub up on chemistry if you're offered a place in our program. But there are no prerequisite subjects. Okay, so this is how we select our students. These are the 3 selection criteria. It's important to know that the interview is as important as the UMAT is as important as your academic results. UMAT, we think, is a very good indicator of your aptitude for medicine. The interview process will, we're out to see, what your passion is for medicine. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But we do select you based on those 3 things: a third, a third, a third. Okay, so remember that. They're all as important as each other. I've left this blank because this is our most asked question and the most difficult question for us to answer every year. The lowest ATAR we look at is 96. along with a very, very good UMAT result to get you to the interview stage. It's probably a good idea now just to provide you with some stats. I don't want to scare you, but these are some relevant stats. The median ATAR of all the people that were interviewed and got into our program this year, the median ATAR was 99.68. The median UMAT result, that's the combination of the three parts of UMAT divided by 3. The median UMAT was 65.41. But the good news, folks, is that somebody with 96.3 ATAR and a UMAT of 69 got into our program this year. So they've obviously done a very, very good interview, and when we combine those 3 selection criteria, we've been able to offer them a place in the program. We interviewed 427 local people for the 136 places for locals. Another fabulous photo. Myth 3, an ATAR of 96 is all that's needed for entry. Well, that's not true. As I said, 96.3, a person with 96.3 got into our program this year. There are many more applicants with 96 that apply to our program. We get about 3,000 applications every year. Of those 3,000 applications, about 2,500 of those people meet the minimum ATAR criteria. Obviously, the higher your ATAR and the higher your UMAT, the better chance you have of getting an interview and getting into our program. Another myth is that a pass in UMAT is all that's needed for entry. Again, same thing, ATAR, UMAT, the higher these things, the better chance you have of getting into the program. Now, we look at a minimum score of 150. Now, that is the score of the 3 sections, and then we divide that by 3. So a minimum score of 50 is the lowest UMAT that we are going to look at. Here's a big one. I always get myself into a bit of trouble here. UMAT preparation courses are beneficial. Well, do you know what? 80% of the students that I talk to that get into our program have done preparation programs. Most of those students that I talk to that did these preparation programs tell me that they felt like they wasted their money. Now these courses, you type UMAT into any web search bar and there are going to be pages and pages of UMAT preparation courses that come up. They range from about $600 to $1,500. I remember telling people a few years ago, I think you're better off spending that $1,500 on a night out before UMAT. And Veronica, the lady from ACER, immediately went mad at me and said, at least tell them to go out after they sit UMAT. So, spend your money on that. But having said that, a whole lot of people do these preparation courses. The students that I talk to tell me that they feel that the preparation courses only help them in the shape section, and then it was only a practice thing, okay? What ACER do is now they produce some online practice questions, and I'm sure Veronica will talk more about that. That's to try and stop these organisations, which are basically just out to make a whole lot of money. They're not concerned about whether you get into medicine or not. They're basically out to earn a bit of money for themselves. But I digress. There's another fabulous photo. This is the Lowy Cancer Research Institute that was opened by the Prime Minister a few years ago. If you notice in the reflection there's that old building. That's the Biological Sciences building. So there's that building. Joined to that on the right is the Medicine building, which is an amazing new building that we moved into last year. That old building is now going under renovations, and by mid-2017, this is going to be the most amazing biomedical research precinct, something that we're incredibly proud of. I'm digressing again, so let's get on with this. Everybody wants to know, what is the interview like? What questions am I going to be asked? Now, most medicine schools now require people to do an MMI, a multi-mini interview. We don't do that. Our interview process is very, very straightforward. You'll be interviewed by 2 people, a doctor and a community member, a male and a female. It's a life experience interview. We won't ask you any science questions. We won't ask you any medical questions. We're going to teach you that if you get into our program. What we're interested in is your passion to do medicine. Why are you at the table on that day having an interview? What is your passion to do medicine? It goes for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Do not be scared, do not panic if your interview only goes for 30 minutes. Do not be scared if it goes for 50 minutes. It's all about what you've got to tell your interviewers about your passion to do medicine. Now, the answers you give in the medicine application will provide background information for the interview, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. A lot of people also ask, well, what am I going to wear to the interview? We really don't care what you wear. You come comfortably dressed, okay? A lot of people will come, a lot of gentlemen come with ties and they look so uncomfortable, like this. I often say to those people, get rid of the tie, relax. So look, just, wear what is comfortable. We're interested in what you've got to say, not what you're wearing. Having said that, it's probably a good idea not to wear boardies and thongs, but wear something that's comfortable. We want to know all about your passion to do medicine. Okay, so these are the questions we ask you. When you do the application, the online faculty application, we're going to ask you a whole lot of questions. And these questions have two purposes. Well, this application has two purposes. When you submit the application, it lets us know that you're interested in our program. But most importantly, it gets you to start thinking about, well, why do I actually want to do medicine? Because that is what our interview process is all about. Please do not get too precious about this application. We don't rank it, we don't score it, we don't mark it. Far too many people ring up. We have a word count for every answer, and far too many people ring up saying, look, please give me 100 more words, I need 100 more words. That is not the purpose of this application. The purpose of this application, I'll say it one more time, is to prepare you for the interview process because we are interested in you and what has brought you to the table on that day that you are wanting to do medicine. Myth number 6, interview preparation courses are beneficial. I've reflected on this and, it's not a bad idea to sort of get a few interview skills behind you, but these organisations that offer UMAT preparation courses for an extra couple of $100 will also offer you coaching for our interview process. Now, they really don't know what our interview process is all about. So if they start telling you that we're going to be asking you these questions and this is how you answer, dump them immediately and ask for your money back because like I said, it's what has brought you to this point in your life that you are wanting to do medicine. So keep that in mind. It's based on your life experience and your motivation. Applicants have a better chance of entry if given an early round interview. Well, that's not true either. We do the majority of our interviews in November, and that's based on predicted ATAR and actual UMAT result. We need to do that because of the time constraints we have. A whole lot of people that we interview in November will not actually meet that ATAR criteria that we're looking for and with the UMAT result they have. So we're sort of wasting a little bit of time there, but we want to give everybody the opportunity of having an interview. In January, we also offer a smaller round of interviews for people that weren't interviewed in November, and that's for the people who actually got the results that we require. No offers are made to medicine until after everybody has been interviewed and we have calculated your selection results based on those 3 criteria. What if I don't get into medicine the first time around? You can apply again the following year. If you commence other studies, other tertiary degree studies, we will combine your ATAR with your tertiary degree result to work out a new equivalent ATAR. To maintain that ATAR, if you do that, you need to have at minimum, absolute minimum, all distinctions from what you're doing in that year. A bad one that nobody is really interested in is repeating the HSC, for obvious reasons. Complete another tertiary degree program and then start applying for graduate entries. For instance, Sydney Uni that offers the four-year graduate entry program. And consider graduate entry via medical sciences at UNSW. Treat yourself, take a gap year. Cozy up to mum and dad and ask them for a round-the-world trip or something. I think that every person that has just completed the HSC really does deserve something in return for what they've just gone through. The HSC year, I think, is probably the most stressful year you guys are going to have to date. So it really is worthwhile considering taking a gap year. The other thing is also consider Plan B. There are a whole lot of other professions out there other than medicine. In the interview, we're going to ask you, one of the questions we're going to ask you is, what is your Plan B? Now, everybody says, oh, I'm going to continue applying for medicine, I'm going to do this, and I'm eventually... The reality, folks, is that a lot of people are never going to get into a medicine program. So when we ask that question, by all means say you're going to keep trying to get into medicine, but give us a Plan B. We want to know that you are realistic about your chances of getting into medicine. Commencing in another medical school and then coming to UNSW, well, that just doesn't work. It's exceptional circumstances only. We have 2 or 3 places available every year. We will not consider you for a transfer if you have applied to UNSW Medicine before. We always think that it's better for you to continue your medical program at the medical school that you've commenced in. It's based on need and academic merit, but like I said, we only have 2 or 3 places available, and those transfer students, because of the structure of our program, will need to start in year 1 anyway. Another fantastic photo. Myth 9. It's an incredibly big myth. Doctors' children are advantaged or disadvantaged. Now, when applicants don't get in, I often get parents ringing up saying, oh, I'm the top surgeon in New South Wales and it's all because I'm the top surgeon that my son didn't get in. And then I get other people ringing up saying, well, just around the corner, the top surgeon lives and, we're just, my husband's a plumber. We've heard that they're getting in because he's the top surgeon. We are not interested in your parents. We are not interested in what anybody else says about you. We are interested in what you say about you when you come to our interview. We interview you, not the parent. Okay, so just very quickly, this is how you apply. This is the front page of the medicine website. Applying to medicine. Hit that. You'll come to here and you'll select your applicant type. It's important to read through all the information. It really is important that you know all the information that we have available here. Down there, how to apply and lodge your application. So you click on that. Now, along the top there is the local applicant, a rural applicant, international applicant and Indigenous applicants. Just as a side note, our Dean is leaving us. He's retiring in June this year. It's a really sad thing for us. He's been a great Dean, and one of his great legacies is his commitment to Indigenous medical students. Just as a little side thing, we've got around about 50 Indigenous students currently doing the program. We had 7 Indigenous students start this year. We had 6 graduate last year. So yeah, it's a great legacy, one of the great legacies that our Dean is going to leave with us. So yeah, click on how to apply and lodge your application. Now, did I mention Zara Kapina? I didn't. Zara Kapina is our admissions manager. She's the person that's responsible for doing the number crunching, so if you don't get in, you can complain to her. Not true. Zara's great with numbers. She will make sure that everybody that deserves an interview will be offered an interview. And then she has the delight of then crunching all those numbers, all that selection criteria to determine whether we make you an offer to the program. That's our website where you go to commence the application. There are a list of key dates in our application, and if you just follow the key dates, there's a lot to do. If you follow the key dates, you'll be doing fine. I think the most important thing for you guys at the moment is to concentrate on your HSC, get the best ATAR that you possibly can. Study medicine at UNSW, that's our email address. Either Zara or myself will answer any queries there. That's my personal UNSW email address, that's my phone number. We, at the Medicine Education and Student Office, have heard every silly question you can imagine. So any question that you've got won't be any sillier than what we've heard before. Please do not be scared to contact us and ask us any question. We want your application process. We want this whole process to be stress-free for you. And just finally, the Health Careers Kit is a very, very good publication put together by our rural clinical school. Now, it's directed at rural students, but it is a very, very good publication that outlines every health profession, every university that offers those career paths, every ATAR requirement. It's a very, very good publication to have a look at. A good publication to have a look at for when we ask you what's your plan B. And last but not least, myth 10. People think that us people in medicine education and student office are nasty, evil people when we don't make offers to you. We're actually very, very nice. In fact, no, we are, and the reason that we are nice is that we are terrified that when any of you guys graduate as doctors and we come to see you, that you're going to remember us from your time as a student. So we are going to be particularly nice to you. Having said all that, good luck with your application. Like I said, the most important thing at the moment is concentrating on your HSC. But if you do have any questions, please contact us. I've heard every silly question. Okay, all the very best. Thank you.
So Veronica is a senior project director for ACER in Victoria, and ACER, of course, administers the UMAT exam on behalf of universities across Australia. So Veronica is here to just kind of walk us through some tips and tricks on how to prepare for the UMAT.
As Jonathan said, I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to talk about UMAT. Most of you already probably know about it, and if you do, please bear with me for the next 5 to 10 minutes. So if I move to the first slide, UMAT is an aptitude test that the Australian Council for Education and Research develops for UNSW and all the other undergraduate medical schools that require the test as part of the admissions process. It is an aptitude test, and the purpose of it is to provide different information to the universities so that their selection process can be helped by looking in other areas that are not just your academic scores. So not just your ATAR score or your interview, but another piece of information, okay? And what it's looking to do is assess some general characteristics and skills that you would have gained over the years. So it's not something that you can just cram in, and it's not testing your knowledge of a particular subject. So it's supposed to complement your ATAR score and your interview score. If we move to the next slide, it will show you what the structure of the test is, for those of you who don't know. It's a 3-hour test, and it contains 134 multiple choice questions. They cover 3 different areas, and the questions are all interspersed together. So you may find some questions relating to logical reasoning and problem solving, for example, followed by other questions that look into non-verbal reasoning, and then again logical reasoning. So they are all mixed in. Okay, for those of you who may not know, in the past it was different, but for a number of years now the test is structured in this way. So what are these components going to tell the universities? So what we are testing, what we are assessing in the logical reasoning and problem solving is your ability to obviously read information that is provided to you and analyze the data that is being given to you, draw conclusions, and in some cases test some of the hypotheses. I will show some samples of the 3 types of questions in a minute, but that's just to give you an idea of what that particular component is. Understanding people, what that means is we're assessing your interpersonal understanding skills, okay? So again, your ability to read some information that is provided to you, and then to think about what is being described and what impact the information that is given to you as on the people that are described in this situation. What are their thoughts? What are their feelings? What is the behavior that is being described? And finally, a non-verbal reasoning component where there are no words whatsoever aside from the instructions on how to answer your questions. And what we do, we look again at reasoning skills and problem-solving capacity, but this time in a non-verbal context. And you'll see in a minute examples of that. If If you move to the next slide, please. We often ask how we prepare and whether we need to go to expensive preparation courses. Now, I haven't heard all of David's talk, but I've heard it in past years, and I'm sure he's covered some of that already. The important thing is that you're familiar with the style of questions and the types of questions that are included in the exam. There's nothing worse than turning up on the day not having any idea what to expect. So you need to familiarize yourself with the questions. There are ways of doing this. There are practice tests that you can get from us. In fact, when you register, you will get one practice test included with your registration and with work solutions. So that will give you an idea of what the logic behind some of these questions and how to understand them and how to tackle them. Also, we have prepared since last year a number of preparation videos that our test writers, so the people that are actually writing the test, have taken from the practice tests and have explained. So you can watch those once you've registered. They will be available through your account. I think at the moment we have about 44, 45, and there will be another group released later, probably in May or June before the test. So you'll have another lot of questions. And what are they doing? They're pretty much walking you step by step through the questions and the answers to try and give you an understanding of what the process is. Now, this should be sufficient for you to do well enough in the test without having to go and spend thousands of dollars with preparation providers. That's all I can say about that. Then, obviously everyone has got a choice to make and do what they believe is right for them. We do believe it is not necessary, and we worry more than anything about information that you may receive that is not correct. Often some preparation providers are not up to date with how things change and what's going on, and you may be spending a lot of time preparing for something that is of no use to you. Nor do we know how they get their material and who prepares it. In some cases we know that students are asked to write it. So, buyer beware. We have to warn people because we've had stories in the past where students were promised that they would definitely do well and get a place in medical school, and then they didn't. So we can encourage you to study with other friends. If you have other friends in your school or that that are going through the same process, there's no reason that you can't sit down together and help each other, because it is often the case that one person might be stronger in one area than the other, and you can share your knowledge and your thought process and help each other out. The other tip that we can say is to read widely and critically. Some of the passages that you will be presented with are passages that you may not be familiar with, topics that are new to you. While you don't need to know the content, because the content will be provided to you, it would be a good idea to feel comfortable reading things that you may not have come across before. So, try and read different things that you wouldn't normally do, and that will be of good help. If we move to the next slide, you'll see some of the examples of the questions. They are also in the information booklet. The one on the left, and I'm not expecting everyone to read it because I know it's a big auditorium, but the one on the left is a logical reasoning and problem solving. The one on the right is an understanding people question. In both cases, you have a piece of text and a question with 4 possible options. In some cases, you may have a table or a drawing or a cartoon, so they can vary as well. In logical reasoning problem solving, you're more likely to find data, whereas in the understanding people, you wouldn't be finding often, charts with numbers. And again, aside from basic literacy and numeracy, you're not required to have chemistry or advanced maths to be able to understand these questions. On the next slide, you'll see an example or 3 examples of the non-verbal reasoning questions. So as you can see, aside from the instructions that tell you what you're supposed to do, so in the first case, you need to arrange the 5 images in a sequence and find the middle one. In the second case, you have to find the next figure in the sequence, and in the last one, the missing segment. So aside from that, these are the only instructions that you get. All you have is the images to be working with. So as you can see, and you'll be able to see when you go through the practice test that is included in your registration, there is quite a lot of logic and reasoning behind these, but you're not required, again, to have any content knowledge. If we move on to the next slide, when it comes to the test date, be prepared. Again, as I said, there's nothing worse than turning up without knowing what the questions are going to be like, the style of questions, but also be prepared. If you're sitting in Sydney, you will be in a room with probably another 2,000 people. So it's a big hole, and it can be quite daunting for students who may have only done exams in their school, and that's normal. So you need to try and stay focused and not worry about what goes around you, and just concentrate on the test. And if there's any problem, there are always staff there to help. You just need to put your hand up and ask for assistance. When it comes to answering questions, keep time, okay? People work through the tests in different ways, but what we have to say to everyone is don't spend half an hour on one question because you want to get it right, because you will run out of time and you won't be able to answer the whole book. So go through it at a steady pace. Some questions will take you longer than others, that's normal. If you think you know an answer, just put it down, and you can mark it to go back and review it at the end if you have time, but just keep moving at a steady pace. Also, answer as many questions as you can. We don't take marks off if you miss a question, so there is no reason not to attempt all of the questions, okay? So if you're running out of time, you'll be told at the end when you've got 15 minutes left, go through the book and make sure that you've got an answer to absolutely everything, just to add your bits. You know, you never know, you might get an extra right, so just attempt them all as you can. And the other thing we say to students, which is really important, you will not be allowed any paper, any note paper, anything at all, aside from your answer sheet that we will provide you with and your test booklet. Your test booklet is not marked and it's not looked at. So you can write in it, draw in it, do whatever you want. Obviously you can't tear bits out of it and take them out, but you can use it as if it was a piece of scrap paper to do the workings, the rough workings that you need. So please just make sure you remember that, because we can't have additional paper floating around. Very important. And finally, I will just walk you through the important dates on the next slide for 2015. Registrations are open. They've been open since December, and they will close on time at 5 p.m. on the 5th of June. Okay, so please make sure you register by this date. It is very important, and the sooner you register, the sooner you will get access to the practice test, and the sooner you will get access to the preparation videos that our test developers have put together. We've also put together some registration videos and some test taking videos just to give you an idea. They're little animations of what you're required to do in the lead up to the test and what you have to do on the day, so that there are no surprises and you feel quite comfortable about the whole process. And you know, we want everyone to have a good experience. We know that it's a grueling day for students. Some of you will have to travel, but just, you know, the more information you can get from us, please do so. And if you have questions, ask. We will be very happy to answer them. So if for whatever reason you can't make it by the 5th, you have 2 additional weeks until the 5 p.m. on the 19th of June to put in a late registration. Again, we discourage that. There's an additional fee to be paid, so if at all possible, please register on time. Once registrations close, the late close on the 19th of June, we'll start finishing all of the preparations for you so that we can have an exam all ready, and your admission ticket will be sent to you through your account 2 weeks before the test. So until then, you won't know exactly where you're going to be sitting. You'll know what city you will be sitting in, but after that, when it's 2 weeks left, we will send you all the details and the reporting time, so you know exactly where to go and when. And obviously, the 29th of July is the day that you want to be at the test centre, and that is run all over Australia and overseas, always on the same day. So if for whatever reason you can't sit in Sydney, or you can't sit in Melbourne, or you can't sit in Darwin, you have some other options overseas in case you're traveling, for example. And once it's all done, your results will get sent to you in late September. So it will be done in time for you to change any preferences if you have to with your application through the tertiary admission centre, so you don't have to worry about that. Your results will come on time. And I think if we move down again to the next slide, you'll just see an information booklet pop up. This information booklet is available on our website, and we ask every student to read it carefully before they register for the test. It contains all the terms and conditions, all the information that you need to know, and by registering you actually are agreeing to the conditions that are in this book. So please make sure you read it. That will be your first point of call for all questions, and if you can't find the answer, or there is a special case that you want to discuss with us, if we go to the next slide, that is our email address and that is our website. So you can find us by contacting us on the email address. We find that if you can, emailing is the best way, so we can take time to read your query carefully and we can give a considered response and make sure that you have it in writing so you understand what the answer is and what the situation is. Sometimes phoning can be a bit difficult because people might misunderstand the information provided. So please use the email. You'll have a piece of paper for you as well with the answer. And with this, Jonathan, I can see you walking on stage. I am done.
Hi everyone. As Jonathan said, I'm Scott and I'm a current medical student here at UNSW. I wanted to try and give you a little bit of a snapshot into my experiences over the last few years and hopefully give you some idea of what you're getting yourself into and what to expect. I think it's extremely important when you're choosing this path, or in fact choosing any other path, that you do so for the right reasons and with full understanding of what's involved. This is particularly true of medicine because honestly, it's a big undertaking. Not only is it because it's a 6-year degree, which is a long commitment within itself, but also because it's extremely specific. Once you start down this road, there isn't that much flexibility as there might be with other courses, both in what you can do at university academically and in what jobs you have when you graduate. For us, our courses are pretty set from day one. Our faculty sort of sets us going on the medical school conveyor belt and you just sort of strap in for the ride. Our choices are pretty limited to what we do with our 2 general education courses, what places we will go, and once we graduate, what specialty we choose, because the conveyor belt doesn't stop when you graduate. I don't say this to intimidate. Really, I don't think it's a bad thing at all, but it's important to know before you get on the ride. Because in its own way, medicine is a really wonderful degree, and I feel genuinely extremely privileged to be able to do what I do. But enough pseudo-wisdom, onto a brief look at my story over the last couple of years, which is what I think I was asked to do in the first place. I grew up in New Zealand and came to study at UNSW in 2011, which means I'm currently in my 5th and penultimate year. I was pretty nervous when I started it all, but that all went away pretty quickly, and I've actually had a great time ever since. Today, I'm going to talk about 2 things. I'm going to talk about my academic experience and also talk about my extracurricular life, because really, that's what studying medicine has been for me, is both of those things. The idiom, work hard, play hard, seems like it was written for this program. UNSW's medical program is structured by scenarios, whole areas of medicine, even from the beginning. As someone who likes to learn piece by piece, I found this quite terrifying to start with, but very quickly I learned that that's actually how medicine works. Everything in the body is connected, and learning this map right from the start means that you don't have to put fragmented pieces together later on in your career. This is also excellent it's also an excellent thing to learn by scenarios because you learn in the context of patients. We are never very far from the human element, which is why most of us wanted to do this in the first place. Additionally, we start learning clinical skills both on campus and in hospital really, really early, within the first 2 months of starting class. Becoming familiar with the hospital environment means that there is less of a learning curve when you spend more time there in later years, and you also get to build up your clinical repertoire and practice your skills for quite a long time. Also, many of my friends and I have found that the stuff that you learn in hospital is really the stuff that sticks in your memory, so all this clinical experience really does help you learn. I've had access to some fantastic hospitals, both in Sydney and through our rural clinical skills. In my time at UNSW, I've done placements at St George Hospital, Sutherland, Prince of Wales, Sydney Children's, Calgary Hospice, Royal Hospital for Women, St Vincent's Hospital, and most recently at Wagga Wagga Base Hospital. You can also be placed at Liverpool, Bankstown, Coffs Harbour, Albury, Port Macquarie, Griffith, and a bunch of other places throughout our medical program, particularly in the later years. After my first 2 years, which I mostly spent on campus, I did my coursework year where I was in hospital 3 days a week. And then I went on to complete my independent learning project last year, which was in my 4th year. I was quite apprehensive about this research year before I started. I didn't really want to be a lab rat. It wasn't why I got into medicine. However, it turned out to be a really fantastic experience. Firstly, I didn't appreciate when getting into medicine how important research experience is. Because when you are graduating and looking to apply for those really competitive specialties, this research can count almost as much as, if not more than, all of your university results combined. I feel very fortunate to have a leg up when I graduate because I've done some legitimate research already and I know how the research world works for when I want to pick up extra projects after I graduate. Secondly, I didn't realize going into the program that the ILP year does not automatically send you into a research hole in a lab or a library somewhere. I actually elected last year to work with the amazing transplant surgery team at St Vincent's Hospital, where I researched with them and I got to witness some really groundbreaking medicine, incredible surgeries, and actually got to fly on a private jet to go pick up a pair of lungs from outside Sydney, which was pretty exciting. I'm currently in the process of submitting this research project for publication, and I'm also fortunate enough to have been accepted to present at the International Resuscitation Conference in Melbourne in April, so it really isn't just a random year. On top of this, your ILP year, it gives you a chance to pursue some of your other interests, both through general education courses that you can take and your extracurricular pursuits because you do have a little bit more time during the year. Exploring this extra side of yourself is something I can't recommend enough. It really made my experience here that much better, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But now, here we are. I'm in phase 3. I'm in my full-time clinical years, and really, it's just the best. I rotate between different departments and different hospitals every 4 to 8 weeks. I meet some truly inspirational medical professionals and get to do things like assist in surgeries, do basic procedures, take histories, see patients through their whole hospital stay, and even deliver a baby myself at 6 in the morning a few weeks ago, which was a pretty magical experience. I feel that it won't retract from my legitimacy to admit that when I was holding the baby after I just weighed it and it stopped crying and it grabbed my finger, I teared up pretty badly. Which all the midwives found pretty entertaining. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention our elective program. We all get to go overseas or somewhere else to do our elective, which is really an amazing opportunity. And at the end of this year, I'm looking to spend 4 weeks doing trauma surgery in Johannesburg and then do an internship with the World Health Organization in Geneva. So I'm extremely, extremely excited. But look, enough about the academic stuff. While this is really the main reason that I'm here and you would be here as well, it's only part of the experience, and I'd only be telling you half the story if I didn't mention a few of the other experiences I've had while I've been at UNSW. I've gone to MedCamp and MedBall. I've competed in our medical student talent quest, our faculty-based sports competitions where we beat law, which we're very happy about. I've been a member of the cast of Med Review, and then I went on to direct the show in my 3rd year, which was very exciting. I've been the events director on the MedSoc executive. MedSoc is our medical student society, and we do some really amazing things for our fellow medical students. I've gone to a national convention run by medical students in Adelaide, and we'll be going again in Melbourne this year, which is in a different city every year and has some of the most inspiring talks, educational workshops, and really mind-blowing social events that I have ever seen. I'm now our university's representative to ACER, the Australian Medical Students Association, and I'm really starting to see the scope of what is available to us on a national level. There is really truly something for everyone, both within our medical student community, but also within the wider university. And you can do it all without jeopardizing your studies, too badly. And those who get into medicine tend to be pretty multifaceted, people who are talented in many areas, and I really think it's a shame to not continue these other interests, particularly in an environment that makes it so easy and so much fun. But really, I've still left the biggest question that I was actually asked to answer, which is, what is it like? Really, it's pretty amazing. I won't stand here and say that there isn't a lot to learn, and that it can be pretty challenging sometimes, but that's balanced out by a lot of other qualities of the program. The faculty and our teachers are hugely supportive. Our teachers go to great lengths to support us and to teach us everything we need to know. Our cohort is almost intimidatingly talented, but are also extremely genuine and decent people. I guess it's one of the benefits of having your friends sort of handpicked by an interview process for you. I've really made some of my best friends during this program, people that I'm going to continue to work with after I graduate. But really, the entire class is very cohesive, supportive, and collaborative. The competitiveness really is over once you get into medicine, which is really nice. I was told when I was coming into medicine that it is more difficult to get into it is harder to get into medicine than it is to do medicine, and it's harder to do medicine than it is to be a doctor. I don't know if that's true, but it seems to be going well so far. But look, enough of me going on. All the best for your futures wherever they may lead, whether they lead here or somewhere totally different. My only recommendation is just to make sure that you take all of the opportunities you can get and be open to changes along the way. Uni isn't something that you get to do forever, although with a 6-year program it can sometimes feel like it. And you really don't want to miss out on what is a really fantastic ride along the way. Thank you.
For more information about the information you've seen in this video, please check out the medicine faculty website here.